Welcome everyone, my name is Sam. The question of the day is reselling easier in 2025 than 10 years ago? And the answer is absolutely yes and no. Now let me explain what I mean. In 2014, there wasn't reselling, it was just only gaining momentum. It hasn't reached the height of it hasn't reached market saturation yet. It's still tipping toward that point. Now, for context, I'm just going to give you a backstory about myself. I used to go to thrift store since I was 18. Usually just to find like cool jackets, t-shirts, stuff that I wear for myself, not to sell personally. And also, I can remember back when I was in college, it wasn't really seen as cool to go to charity shops because it was kind of frowned upon. And then now it's now a big thing. That's what people actually want. That's what the kids want now. But anyway, so that led me to buying PCs and buying jackets off eBay, fixing buttons. This was just all. It's just a hobby, should I say? It wasn't a hobby really. It was just like a collector. I was more of a collector. Now fast forward to 2013, 14. Tried a job back then. It was a really good paying job, and the contract was coming to an end, and so I could easily just stayed on. I looked for a new contract. I was, while I looked for a new contract. So instead, on the other hand, I also had a company that was doing really well. I had 5 people working for me back then. Things were going in the right direction, and they were just that point that we just needed to get funding, and it would have been a different story. But so what happened when you don't have a job for a period of time, and you need to pay your rent, and you're waiting money in for your tax back to pay your rent? You just move to a new apartment. Nice apartment. So while my oil business was doing really well, and I forgot why it was doing well, because I worked on it all the time. Not that I have all this free time, whereas I would get up at 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. I would work from 3 to about 6 to 7, 8, and then go to work, come back, and then work on it maybe from 8 to about 11. And that's all I did. So my focus was on the business. Now before I started my reselling journey, for a bit of backstory, before I started my reselling journey, I started a business with somebody else back then, and things, let's just say, the plan I've executed things didn't go in the right direction. So that led me backtracking to, okay, so I started reselling. It wasn't really even reselling per se, because the first item I sold on eBay was a Ben, I believe I still have the picture somewhere. It was a Ben Sherman shirt, I think, which I paid probably I remember going to charity shop back then, for context. I remember going to charity shop, this is 2014, spent like €400 in a charity shop, buying random stuff, open thinking they would sell. Spent like €400 that day in charity shop, bought random stuff, to list them on eBay just to see. I was naive back then because I didn't know how business worked, and I was looking for what I can do to just bring extra income on the side. So only to sell it for less. I think the first time I sold it, Ted Baker or Ben Sherman, I can't remember. But I bought it for 307, or maybe I sold it for like €1 less than what I bought it for. Fast forward, I started going to vintage shop around my new place that I was living in, and just collect stuff, really, buy jackets. I'll go to charity shop, buy there, and then it hit me. I was on Depop for a while, and Depop really hadn't taken on. People were just liking stuff. So then I transitioned to ASOS Marketplace, which was a platform back then that you could really sign up for, and if you had really cool stuff. My friend Spencer Sell was the #1 guy for 7 years. We all looked up to him. If you're watching this video, Spencer. So the inspiration was just to, let's just see where it would take me. So I remember the first one I sold on that platform, I think it was for €70, which was like, wow, that really opened my eyes. and it was a Hugo Boss jacket, I think, but for €10. So fast forward, okay, I started going to the shop, the vintage shop beside my house. I'll buy some stuff from charity shop, things I thought it was a little cool. I had a rail in my little bedroom, so I was working in the bedroom, and I have so much stuff. And then I started going on eBay. I was typing in vintage, wholesale, and I bought random stuff. I have to go pick it up in the post office, bring it back to my place, then try and shoot it. Then I had an iPhone back then. Remember, I had an iPhone even before I knew how to use camera and all that kind of stuff. I had an iPhone. I would take pictures on my iPhone, upload it to the platform, try to get models. And I was living so far away from my friends that if I was living in the city center location, I could easily go and ask for help or talk with a friend of mine that was doing the same business at that time. And I remember the first thing that came to my mind was, oh shit, I'm going to get $3,000 back for my tax back. Let me go meet this guy and see if he can help me. If he's willing to help me turn $3,000 to $20,000 maybe in a year or so, at least that way I'm onto something. So that didn't happen, and I couldn't get any of my friends to come and model for me, so it was just like start and stop, start and stop. So I had a housemate back then. I used to sell brand new clothing. I would try and take pictures. I mean, the very first camera I bought was a point and shoot camera, which pretty much just you put on a camera and you just point and shoot. You have to know where the camera is now today. So then let's fast forward, opened the shop, a friend back then, and basically just, I remember we spending almost $3-4 just to get the shop ready, and me being optimistic and naive. 6 months before that, I wanted to take the shop on my own. It was just the distance of going back and forth. So, and I would go all those ways, stuff and quicker stuff in charity shop. There was a distance coming between living in a rural area to going to a city centre, and you're constantly going back and forth. So what I did was I just got sucked into the old stuff. Mind you, trying to pay rent, trying to pay rent and try to to run this better business as well. So open the shop and fast forward, let's just say part of the business partner, I unexpectedly, as I was left with a whole bunch of bills to be paid. The experience was great. The only experience from that taught me that in investing in critical technical skills, like I always wanted to learn how to take photography and do editing, because photography was something that I had a passion for. Even while I was in college, I used to just download all those cool pictures. I remember my third year in college, a friend of mine was a graphic designer, and he was doing the same course as me, and I thought about switching to do graphic design because I just love pictures and all kind of stuff. And then there was a bunch of stuff that I needed to learn, which was I wanted to learn how to use cameras. So I partnered with somebody, and then because we're at this place now and we have to pay rent every month, which is about €100 a week back then in a rural town, which is about $400 a month, and coupled with the fact that we need to make sales, and then I was doing some promotion job on the side. I had some money coming on, and so I took some of my money, went and picking. That was the first time I got initial experience in hand picking, what it was, and that's another debate which I'll talk about, hand picking versus bulk buying, which is better. So I started hand picking. We started hand picking. This stock got better, and as you contact suppliers elsewhere, they have better stuff. So the better quality stuff you have, the more you're gonna sell. While my mindset back then was the more stuff I have, the more money you get to make. And which summarize that sometimes you could be working and making money, but also try to work for experience as opposed to work for money. Because even if you're making money, you miss out on critical stuff like experience, context, pretext, why certain things are done this way, and what's the consequences if it's done this way. So fast forward a few months, and I wanted to go back to central location just because my family and friends were there. It was very lonely. It was a very lonely experience. Being away from my friends and family. If I wanted to go out, I couldn't go out. I was just stuck in a rural town, and in retrospect, it was actually probably what I needed back then. I needed to be in isolation to be truly in depth and focused, because I had to learn photography the hard way. I've been to 2-3 years I've been trying to learn it, but unless you're gonna go to a photography school, so it's only when I was under immense pressure I had to bring all my friends, beg them to come and teach me how to do it, to know what ISO is, know what an f-stop is, know what a shutter speed is, learn to use Lightroom. I didn't even know how to use Lightroom or Photoshop, and you'd think someone that has experience in and working with photographer would know a lot about all this skills. So fast forward anyway, things were going, after it took me a year to fully recover, just even raise money, because things were so flat out that I needed that time to just recover, and it took me a year, coupled with the fact that I have to pay shop rent, I have to pay taxes as well, I have to pay my staff, and then my own personal expenses. All my income was from this business, so there was no, I had to pay my rent, to pay for food, and then myriad other expenses, and so on and on. My expenses were three and a half a month, just before profits, just before I even take out anything. So my expenses, personal business expenses, were 3.5 grand. That's how much I needed to cover all my expenses comfortably, and which was a lot back then, because in retrospect, had I been able to get my costs down to paying maybe $250 a month in rent, I'd have been able to spend a lot more, So the lesson is no matter how much more money you're making, always try and cut your cost. In some situations, it's hard to cut a cost, because some rent you gotta pay for, where you live, where you have a roof over your head, you gotta pay for, the premises you're using, you gotta pay for, taxes you gotta pay for, utility you have to pay for, and then council charges you have to pay, rate you have to pay for. So there's a lot of stuff that gets into expenses, and that's some people glorify business as as they like to glorify business people as like, oh, you're making a lot of money, but if you look at it, it's only like 1% of business owners, they're actually making million, and that goes to show you, and then the study said maybe 90% of business might fail in 2 or 5 years. So what I did was, okay, since I know I no longer want to be in these environments, I moved into a big shop. I left the other unit, moved to a bigger unit. I just packed my stuff, and I did an event, packed my stuff, and just looked for a place where I could temporarily store my stuff. I stored my stuff there, and I wasn't active on it, because I could have. I was active for a few weeks, and then coupled with the reality that I'm back in a central location. Okay, alright, I'm able to get my rent down to maybe $250 a month in a shared room, and okay, I have a location now for my business that I start from, and then within that 6 months, my out was literally gone. As in, go to bed at 11 p.m., get up at 3 a.m. I did that for 3 years, and this is the side of reselling that people don't get to see. People think, oh yeah, you're just gonna take pictures and you're gonna sell. No, it's just I have never worked so much. I remember working that hard, and I thought I was hard working. I have never worked so hard and so much that I lost so much hair. I used to have a flat top back then. I lost so much hair in less than 3 months of working that intense. Cause it's just like a shock to the body, of how hard we're working, and the money was great back then. We were like say 10 to 11, 13 grand a month, and to make that amount, obviously you also need money as well. You probably spend like 2 or 3 grand a month on good stock. So people think you're just gonna put random stuff on the internet. That's not. You need money to be able to make kind of money. You know, don't just, if you're gonna sell cheap stuff, just know that if you're gonna buy stuff cheap, if you buy it cheap, you have to sell it cheap. If you buy premium, you can sell premium. You know, and the advantage of selling premium is that you can spend a lot upfront. Say you spend 4 or 5 grand on stock, and maybe each item, let's say you got like, I don't know, 400 or 500 units of item, and each item probably go for 40. So if we do the maths, you know, you can calculate how much you potentially could make, and coupled with the fact that you always need to be new in, you can't just upload product and just expect to sell itself. But the basic brands that I think that I liked were that I was told by one of the OG I'm not going to say OG, one of the mentor that I come across. He's been doing the business for years, or 35 years. I was just raffling around Tommy Hilfiger, Levi's, just the basic brand, just experimenting, you know. So I did that. So now I out of curiosity, when I'm coming up with weigh-n-pay, because I wanted to do a brand. The brand was, and I wanted to do a brand that was cheaper, because I saw a gap in the market that people wanted cheaper stuff, and we're not always able to do that as business people, because you've got to pay your taxes, you got to pay for utilities, you got to pay rent, you got to pay a lot of stuff. So if you make €1, maybe you're left with 20 cents or 15 cents, because the margin is so small. And that's one thing I have to learn, the margin is so small. So what I did then was, okay, I'm gonna come up with this brand. I came up with a name. Okay, I got a graphic designer, came up with the concept. The whole plan was to model after Depop, but in hindsight, which is probably a good, back then it was probably a good decision. So coming up with the old color palette for the brand, the idea for the brand was gonna be the concept I had in my mind. Okay, I was like, I'm gonna make it cheap. I'm gonna keep my main brand, which is good. I'm gonna try and elevate that to maybe sell like more like luxury premium items, and then I'm gonna keep my main brand. I'm gonna create a new brand to fill a gap in the market for having cheap vintage items. So at the time we end up selling out on sale, because that's how you get stuff to move. So like, I'm gonna sell it at a price point of 15 to 10 or 5 anyway. So I came up with the branding. Then in Google, when I was for a place to do t-shirts kind of stuff, I came across a place. I found a unit. I found trying to look for a place to design a t-shirt and tote bag. So I called the place. They showed the unit. So I picked the one I wanted. I picked the unit, and we moved into a bigger place. And I have a 2-floor story warehouse. So I was there for 4 years, and even though I completely stopped reselling for a while because I needed that 6 months, I've gone back to like working a regular job. I just needed 6 months to recover my health, because I was not in the best shape. So let's just say May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So I moved up from the shed where I was living. I was like, I'm gonna take the plunge, the risk, move into the warehouse. I'm gonna make it work. So I was there. I was working on living for almost 4 or 5 years, just because that's just what I had to do. I couldn't afford to pay €1,000 a month in rent, and then pay another close to another 1,000, which was, in looking back now, it's actually probably doable, but there was myriad other expenses, especially if all my expenses were coming from the business. So I was like, you know what? And then boom, COVID happened, which is the best thing and the worst thing that happened. So COVID happened, and then so I was slowly able to keep the business going. So I signed up for Faceless again. I had a different concept, a different logo, a different brand identity. It was more about bright pastel colors. What I would do is I'd find all my customers, or my customer profile. I'll go through their Instagram, the ones that love vintage. I'll see the kind of pictures they'll buy, product they're buying, the caption they're using, their aesthetic, just like a brand persona. So when we did the website, people thought, wow, they thought it was a big company that did the website. So I was just a one-man team. I came up with the concept, I came up with the branding, I came up with the web, I worked with a web developer to design a website for me, and the goal was to go from cities to cities to cities to cities to do all the pop-up shops, because pop-up shop was very big back then, and I wanted to give people quality stuff. It means we'll probably make a lot less, but if we're able to get a volume of sales, then we would have compensated and we would make a lot more in the long run. So then, now to go to the next step. Now let's bring it back to is reselling easier nowadays? Like I said, yes, no. 11 years ago, I had to learn photography, I had to learn how to do Photoshop, I had to learn how to use Lightroom, I had to learn product knowledge as well. There wasn't a lot. You can count how many people were reselling, so there was a lot less entry to barrier and more access to customers. And just before I forgot, I remember back in 2010, I accidentally came across ASOS Marketplace, and I used to go on ASOS.com to look for how they style their model, and then I'll go to a shop and buy similar items just because I love fashion and clothing back then. Now to circle back, so there's a lot of knowledge gap. So for me, the hardest part was the knowledge gap, was learning the skills, not having the skills, then learning the skills, and then I'm needing a bit of capital. So you have two people that have the skills or the knowledge or the idea but don't have the capital. People that have the capital but don't have the knowledge or the idea or maybe have access to the skills. So when I was moving to this new place. Let's say when I came back, I came back literally, I did an event back then. After I paid for the venue, paid for everything, I was left with $5. So from $5, I was able to build up everything back up in less than a year, because I had, one thing was getting access to stuff. Capital was, you need primarily to buy a lot of stuff. You need money to buy that amount of stuff. But the smart thing I was able to do, I started going to a flea market, and I see that I could get the exact same stuff I would get from my supplier. Traveling on a plane to my supplier, I could get the same stuff from the flea market, and I would go regularly every Sunday. It's called Sunday market anyway, and I'll start to collect contacts. I build a relationship with people, and then two or three people that supply me. I'll go meet them, and then I had a deal. They bring me a van, so I could easily get a full van of stuff for like €400, €300, something like that, to bargain it down. And so I could have 500 bags. And then I have to, the downside of it is that it's a lot more work up front. The good side of it, I had surplus. So then I have to go through all the bags. I could have 500 bags. And I have to go through all the bags and then pick the stuff that I want, which I think could be vintage. And then the rest could just be fast fashion and second-hand stuff that are not really vintage. Which then led me to completely just giving up on ASOS, because I think the account has just, I just completely gave up on ASOS altogether, just because it didn't make sense to me, because it led me to a different business, which is like the bell business. And that kind of opened my eyes. So I started the bell business without any machinery whatsoever. I would just take all the second-hand clothes, I'd make it 45 kg, 50 kg, and I would price them, maybe say it would be €1.50 a kilo. So I started packing them, wrapping them, weigh them. I would have 4 or 5 people come and work for me and per day just to help me if I needed to. So I saw that for me to make €1,000 on the platform website, I would have to sit there for the morning. I would have to get up early morning, 6 in the morning sometimes, work till 11 at night, and some weeks you might make 1,000, and some days you might make 500, some days you make nothing. So it's up and down, it fluctuates. Some months you might only make 3, so it fluctuates. So it didn't make sense to me that why would I spend all my time and all my energy on this, where on the other side, I had surplus because I could get the stuff so cheap. I had surplus of stock that I need to move, and I have stuff that I could sell that look cool. So I separated too. So the stuff that I could sell for surplus at the cheap, I sold. I graded my jacket, t-shirt, my women categories, and then the stuff that are vintage I could try and sell on the platform. And I realized that the turnover for the belt business was a lot higher. It's a lot more stock that you're letting go up front, because you could say, okay, I've got 1,000 stock and I can sell 8,000 stock for 20. So if you multiply 20 by 1,000, or I got 1,000 stock, I'm going to sell each item for 2. So for me, it didn't really make sense, So like, I can actually turn the money quicker. So let me sell it for 2, because the turnover was a lot quicker. The money was like, I didn't have to spend all day sitting on the computer, listing the product, doing the groundwork. Whereas I could just sell the stuff for 2, or maybe 150 per kilo, and I can make the exact same amount. Although the work up front was hard and tedious, but I could make the same amount. So then that led me to getting a machine. Boys come in and work for me, where we separate them to different categories. And it was obvious to me that I was growing the place, and I needed a bigger place. So a year before I moved back to central location, I saw a location that I couldn't afford back then, but which was really decent. So I took a screenshot, went back later, I called the guy up. It was a 10,000 square foot warehouse. It's a really big warehouse, which was perfect for what I wanted. So the image that I had was, we're going to be doing bills. I'm going to have like 3 or 4 machines. We're going to have 3 or 4 machines coming, and luckily the guy that was right beside my business gave me a contact of one of his clients. So he came in, he actually messaged me, see if I can supply him some like a truck every month, which is doable, but probably take me 4 months at the rate I was getting stuff. So what I did was, he then invited me to go to his warehouse, and I was like feeling high and mighty. Oh, that I've got a 2-story warehouse, and it goes to show you others be humble. So when I actually took the time to go to his location, my warehouse was just his office, and he's got a big super warehouse. He's got 4 or 5 machines. He's got a system in place. He's got a conveyor belt. It's got things where all areas properly run. I can see like stack of bills, customs are placed orders, the containers there, and it gave me a container. Gave me a container of grades. It gave me a container of grades stuff, just like 40-foot container for free. Say you can have this for free if you can get someone to bring it. And there was 2 problems. Where will I store it? And I have to pay someone to bring it for me. But anyway, it did materialize. So what I've gone there has opened my eyes. So I understand, okay, I might not have the space and capacity to do it the way I wanted to do it, but I can do it on a micro scale. And that I did. So I'll make the bills. The work was very tedious. I'll make the bills, pack the bills, list it on Facebook Marketplace, boost the ad, and you might say 10 bills. So 10 bills could be, I would send each bill for 110, 15, but I would do a combined reduction bundles, and maybe for 10 bills you could get like, I could sell like for 950 or 1,000. So to me it made sense to make, I make 1,000 in a day, every other day, or selling 10 bills that's sitting on the computer, listening for hours. So because the place we're in, I needed extra space. So we're outgrowing, there was too much stuff, and I wasn't turning stuff over quick enough. So I got an extra container storage, which cost me about $50 a week, and then that also got filled up with so much. So we have excess of stock. I was swimming in stock, and a lot of my customers back then were from mostly Nigeria, Ghana, Eastern Africa, Eastern Europe, and South Asia countries like Pakistan. Those external markets will buy the bills and they'll go resell it. So it looks like we're in the right direction, and then our container got set on fire. and I suspect it's out of jealousy and envy. Somebody offered us to buy the full container, and the price they were looking for didn't fit because if I calculate the labor cost, and then if I'm being sincere, I think we lost about, in resale value, about 80 to 100 grand of stock. In wholesale value, it would have been 20 to 30 grand or more. So now to flip it back to is reselling easier in 2025? Today now you have AI, you can use your iPhone, your background remover. There's a lot more people doing reselling now, which is extremely saturated because even your customers now are your competitor. So what do you do when you have every COVID happened, people have all this free time, they had spare clothes they want to sell, they needed something to secure about them. As a result of COVID happened, Depop blew up. It took 7 years for Depop to blow up, and they've been at it for so long. And luckily they got bought up by Etsy then. So I was selling Depop part time, but it wasn't the main thing because the Bell business was a much bigger profits, and I'm not gonna invest my time in all those tedious work. So I was like, okay, what's the next thing we can do? We went from the Bell business. Now the next step was container. So if the Bell business could make me 1,000 a week, give and take, maybe, if I push really hard, I could get 3-4 customers. Let's say 1,000 a week. It average sells 500,000, so you can just give and take maybe 4,000 of customers, possibly more if I had the staff to supply them. If you could have easily done 10, 20 grand a month. So I had an epiphany. If I could sell a 20-foot container for 22 grand, and if I could sell a 40-foot container for 40 grand of second-hand stuff, not vintage now, second-hand stuff, and a mixture. So I started working on that. We built up our first 20-foot container. We got an offer for half the price I was looking for, which in hindsight I probably should have said yes to it. And then somebody else offered a price for the 1,000 for a 20-foot container, which was not. It didn't make sense back then because I would sell to people that are sending stuff to Africa. Those were my main customers. So as a result, a container got on fire. I had to move. I've already, my unit that I've been in 4 years, I wanted to keep that for just photography because I was doing content inside photography, a photo shoot, and I was going to keep moving to this big 10,000 square foot warehouse for expanding the business with no capital. This is all my own capital from my work, from little money I got from customers. So now because the container's gone on fire, and this didn't fall through, so the warehouse, the guy was reluctant to rent it out because I think he wanted to use it for his own business now, and as a result, I had to downsize. I left the place temporarily, downsize, and I think the landlord were having an issue with the banks. Maybe the bank was going to take the property from them, and there was, I had to downsize. And took what I had to a different location, and now I'm in a smaller location, working at a high volume, but in a more small capacity. So whereas when I had a big space, I would fill up rails. Now that I have a much easier to manage, and it's a lot more systemized. So if I get an order, everything is labeled sequentially. To do an order, to ship everything, it's a lot much easier approach. Now to answer the question, is reselling easier than there is? The answer is yes, if you're willing to do the work. And 10 years ago, you would have to go find the stock. You needed money as well to buy quality stuff, and you need to sit your ass on the computer and list the product. Do the T's with customer service, email, taxes. It's a lot easier to get distracted by all those other external factors. The flip side is now that, let's say 10 years ago there was 10 people doing reselling. Now today there's 1,000 people doing reselling. So to stand out in a sea of a lot of people doing reselling, now what you have to do now is you have to either have a lot more stock to compensate, or be super premium Sell premium stuff that you only need to sell one item or 3 items a week, or maybe a day even. Let's say for your average sales like 300 or 200 per product. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter if you sell a low volume, but you're still making a huge margin. So if my average luxury item were like say 150 to about 100 to 200 or more, I could sell a low quantity and still come out making 10 to 15 grand. That's one option. And the other option is you might have to sell a lot more. So you might see people list 11,000 stuff, 50,000 stuff. I've even seen people list 300,000, no, sorry, 100,000 stuff on the platform they're selling. And as a result, obviously you're gonna need the proper team for that. And if I was to do that right now, I have a much better system in place. Because finding this stuff is the headache. When you have so much stuff, finding it is the headache. Doing the shipping is the headache, because you as a business owner can take the onus of yourself, but you need a system that it's like plug and play. You can literally, so the system I have right now, the old system was we have rails, everything goes on hangers. We get the item, we get it sell, you look for the item, you try and ship it. And sometimes you might not always find it. So my new system is everything is packaged, measured, labeled, and it goes in a clear plastic bag. So everything is numbered from 1 to infinity. So what I have is it's a box or / a crate. I would shoot the item and I'll go from 1. So let's say I can fit about 50 items in each box. So 1 will start from the beginning and I'll go to 50 and I'll do another box. Doing it that way made it easier to find the products, because all I have to do was get a shelf and then start from the bottom and label each box and go up and down, and almost like a library system. So you come in, if I get 50 sales now, I got 40 orders there, and to package everything, find everything, took me about less than 2 hours, which is slow considering that I've done 60 items in about less than an hour and a half. But obviously the place is not organized yet. So the final answer is yes, reselling is a lot easier, because now you even have AI tools, and we're moving from platform dependency, which means the platform still works. I mean, the core fundamental of reselling is, or the business model, if you want to go from the lower end, you got your platform. So it could be Depop, it could be Poshmark, it could be Carry, it could be eBay, it could be Vinted. That's your platform. And then you go to your physical location, where if you have a physical store in a central location or a place that you have a market advantage of, that's also your retail. And then you got your wholesale, which was what I was doing. You can wholesale to other resellers. In my case, I was trying to wholesale to resellers, and I was trying to wholesale to second-hand buyers. And then those are the core fundamental. And then you got your pop-up event, where you go and do a pop-up location like a sale. That's the 5th. Now, the thing about it is there's always another level to it. Now, to go to the next level, where I was going was, I'm going to start going to, okay, I'm going to have all the 5 channels, and then now I'm going to do bells and container. So bells, I could make what I could make in a day, what I could make in a week, in a day. And container, I could either make what a top percent reseller makes in a month, in a day. So okay, let's compare it. Okay, so for the container, it might take it a month to sell a container, but your average sale is 20,000, or 20,000 to 40,000, whereas that's one sale. Whereas one sale for a platform or a physical location could be 20 to 15. So it's like the numbers are huge. Now we're coming to a new place now where it's like a lot of resellers have to face the music. Is we're moving to live streaming, and I've done live streaming before. for a reseller it doesn't make sense, but for someone that can get access to cheap stock, it makes sense. Because I have a jacket. Let's take this jacket right there and jump I'm wearing right now. The resale value on this could be anywhere from 50 to 100 or 150 depending on your aesthetic. If I was to live stream this, I could either sell starting from £1, right? It could go from £1 to £7 if I'm lucky. So I no longer need to take the pictures. I no longer need to do the measurements. I just need to show up on camera, present myself, tell the audience what it is, and then they bid on it. So it's like you could wait a month or 3 months to charge €20 for a t-shirt, or you could get that t-shirt and sell it for 2 or 3 or even more. But the turnover, is a lot, and the margins isn't way even smaller. But at least the profit is a quick turnaround. So that's the summary of. Yes, and there are even platforms, because I've talked to a few people that have a platform. There are even platform now that allows you to, whereas before I would have to take the picture, edit the pictures, list the pictures, write the description, and then do the admin work, do the shipping. Now what I have is a system I have right now. I've outsourced my listing and customer service to a virtual assistant I've been working with for 2 years now, 2 to 3 years. I've trained them over and over again to my standard, and it's a lot cheaper for me to do it that way. Whereas now I could list, if I was to go and to list a 1,000 per picture would take me an entire day. But like now with AI, if I was to list a 1,000 product picture, instead of taking an entire 10 hours or whatever how long it's going to take, maybe you can do it in less than 2 hours. It would write the product, it would write the description for you, do the pricing. So I think because the people that embraces AI will have an unfair advantage, but it means you'd have to do 100 to 1,000 more work to get the same result. Because when everybody catches up, or even maybe not catches up, but when everyone starts to get to that place that we need to start using all this processing system to automate that process. That means like the speed now is a lot faster. So it's like, think of it as if you are running a 100-meter race and you're the top 1% people that are fastest on board. The last to the first, usually it's only by a few seconds out. So that means like it's a lot more intense. But to compensate, you'd have to do a lot more, And yes, it's still possible to do resell and at the capacity we were 10 to 15 years ago, but the margin is small. You gotta play, and then not talk about platform rules as well. If you get deplatformed by your main platform, you're out of pocket. I'll talk about that in another video, but yes, it's possible to do it until 2025, but the work has to be triple or quadrupled what it was 10 to 15 years ago to even get a sniff. Or maybe I could be wrong, it could just be quality of the product that you list, and that's how you have it. That's my take on it.